What's going on, Titans fans? Welcome into another edition of the Morning Glory Show. I'm your host, as always, Jake Robertson at Glory Day Sports. And we're talking about the Psych-Ward today and all things Titans. But I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, as always, Jonathan Millard. How are you doing? And tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, man. Doing great. Doing great, man. The quarterback is locked in. I don't care what anybody says, man. Being right feels amazing. I'm going to take my victory lap soon, hopefully. We'll see. But yeah, excited to talk about what the rest of the draft looks like, what the rest of the offseason looks like, and feeling good. Yeah, so at Esports Valen on Twitter and at All Things Titans on TikTok.
Awesome. Yeah, I believe the Cleveland Browns are now officially on the clock at the 102 pick. But B. Will, how are you doing today as well?
Excellent. Just watching everybody lose their mind over pro day again, man. Nothing new, just watching everybody lose their mind over a couple throws at a pro day on turf, on air, nothing new. But you're right, though. 101 is done. So we'll see how it goes. I hope all the best for them and hope all the best for us. We'll see.
I got to be honest with you guys. I tuned into the interviews from the pro day. I didn't give a shit about watching him throw on air, though. I've seen it on tape.
I don't either.
Need anything. People are going to blow it out of the water, and I know that I saw clips of the last play where they do the hitch around and end up throwing Cam Ward in the corner of the end zone. It's like, okay, that does nothing to me. It moves the needle in neither direction. And then they roll out the man Rand Carthon to interview the guy at the end.
I'm like, what the hell is going on at the pro day? That's when I saw Carthon down there. I said, what is going on?
That felt like AJ Brown might as well have been interviewing him at that point. I was like, damn, what are we watching, bro?
I was expecting to see the old man show up too. Bud Adams, Floyd Reese, somebody was going to show up there. I didn't know what was going on. No, it's those throws at the pro day. It's beginning to make me dislike it a little more than even like it at all. Before when I was a kid, I was like, oh my gosh. And here's the thing, and this is just me. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. He tricked me a little bit with the throw because I first seen it on the clip and I saw he threw it from the damn 5 to the other 5. And I'm like, hold on. Jonathan might be right this whole time. And then I did some counting. I said, that Joker got me again.
Nice try. The visual effects on this thing are incredible.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. The fake news. It was fake news at a pro day. I'm like, God.
Oh, man.
Welcome in, Coach Wills. He says it was how he interacted with his teammates for me. And that was one thing that stood out to me as well. He talked about it afterwards. He said, I didn't throw at the combine because I wanted to highlight these Miami cats and give them their dues. And they did a lot with that.
Too, didn't he?
It highlighted Restrepo with his, 4.83?
They ran a 4.87 or 4.83. I ran that in high school at 2.30.
I might run that now. I might run that now at 30.
I saw what he said, though, right? In all fairness to Restrepo, he's been running a 4.5. He's been running a 4.5.
Yeah.
He kind of tweaked his hammy, thought he could still do it, ran a 4.8. That was not a good idea. But I respect him for doing it anyway and then coming out and being like, I thought I could. And yeah, so because a 4.5 is a respectable 40. But you could see every bit of that 4.8 speed on that day, though. Like when he was running those
balls, open up.
Damn, that's kind of slow.
No, it's one of those things. I don't think he looks like 4.5 on tape, and I don't think he looks like 4.83 on tape either. I think it's somewhere in the middle of that. He looks like a 4.6 to 4.6.
I think he said he was running like a 4.58.
Yeah. You just have to kind of round that up just due to him hyping himself up, I think. And maybe he does run that, and I think it's great. This isn't a guy that was in consideration for me at the 35th pick as was. No. And he was more of that third, fourth roundish option. Maybe this causes him to slide down the board slightly. I don't think teams are going to look into this a whole lot. So I don't think he's there when they're on the clock in the 4th round for either of their picks. But nonetheless, the wide receiver position does need to be addressed regardless of those two picks. And it might not be Restrepo. And I know there's been all of this talk here very recently that Luther Burden's going to be there at 35 because he's a diva, because his mom is overstepping boundaries and his girlfriend's in his business. I don't give a shit about that. I want a diva.
The thing that was conserving, though, Jake, I know what you're referring to, a report that came out.
Yes.
What does kind of catch my eye about that, like the girlfriend being the manager and the mom being super involved too, like that's family. That doesn't bother me. The part that kind of bothered me a little bit, and you don't know if it's true. We don't know if it's true, but if it is, the only thing that kind of perked my ears up a little bit is when they said that Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday, the other 6 days of the week, he's just a guy. Like he's not a football player. Like he doesn't put in a bunch. He doesn't put in the extra time on his craft, which that's kind of hard to believe, right? He is a very good player. So, maybe he just doesn't go super hard, or maybe he didn't care enough at one point in his college career. That's hard to believe, but that's going to get axed away when teams have conversations with him, right? Like ultimately he'll be able to talk himself up enough that'll match the level of play and match the tape that you saw on him. But if I can tell you right now, if Luther Burden falls to 35 and the Titans draft him, man, I'm going to start saying some dumb stuff in the offseason. I'm going to start saying some real dumb stuff going into the season, guys.
Let me ask y'all this, though. Do you think this locker room is strong enough to take in a personality like that, or a guy that doesn't give a shit, quote unquote, doesn't give a shit, doesn't dedicate to the craft? It's an interesting question.
I think about the same stuff last year with Devondre Sweat.
Yeah. I think with Cam Ward as the new leader of the locker room, I think you can.
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue.
The Sweat thing proved me wrong. I was really surprised by the Sweat thing.
I think Calvin Ridley can take a young guy under his wing and kind of lead him in that way as well, just because of the personal stuff that he's gone through. I think he's grown from that in the same right. But Luther Burden, I want a diva out there. The Titans have had one diva receiver since they've started, and he's probably the most gifted receiver that they've ever had. And now he's just catching balls from Jalen Hurts, winning Super Bowls. It's unfortunate that's the way it went.
And he really wasn't even a diva.
No. He was a little bit.
He was just a little
kid.
Every now and then.
He had a personality, and fans don't like that. And it's fine. They want their Derrick Henry to roll out there, say exactly what Mike Vrabel tells him to say, and get off the field and go rush for 200 yards. And there's nothing wrong with that either. You got to have a mixture of personalities in a room, but can he help elevate the team and show that he cares in his own way? I don't think it has to be an XYZ. He has to be out there in the field Monday through Friday and show up on Sunday. Steve McNair didn't do that. And he was the best quarterback we've ever had. And I'm not going to even go down the comps.
That boy wasn't practicing. If that boy wasn't practicing or playing, he was sleeping. That was like all the stories you ever hear.
So
okay, all right. We don't have to go down there.
That's my favorite quarterback too. But let's be honest about the guy. He had fun too.
Yeah, he had plenty of fun. I know he was. He definitely had his rest days out there for sure. When I look at the second round, though, I think there's two glaring needs on this team, and that's at the wide receiver position. And James Prochet getting signed yesterday doesn't move the needle a whole lot for me. I mean, they're bringing him in as a punt returner more than likely. I did like what he showed coming out of. I believe he was playing for SMU, if I remember right, and was a decent slot prospect. But he's undersized, shorter arms, not a hyper athlete. But with them moving on from Tyler Boyd, you got to fill that position somewhere. Maybe he can kind of alleviate that. But you have to find some guys to go catch the ball from Cameron Ward. And they bolstered this offensive line. If I'm looking at that 35th pick, maybe Luther's there. And by all means, if he is there, you're sprinting in that card. And if you don't, I'm really worried about this organization and how they view prospects. But if he's not there, you're looking at a guy like Jack Besh, who's gotten a lot of hype here recently, who I absolutely love coming out of TCU, has the ability to block very well, which I know Titans fans are like, well, what's he do when he catches the ball? He creates separation. And he has some of the best hands in this draft. And he looks like Tyson Fury out there on the line of scrimmage when people are trying to press him. Absolutely love his game. And they've got the other TCU wide receiver, Savion Williams, who is a totally different prospect in his own right. But I think Jack Besh might be kind of the best fit for us there. Do you guys have any guys that jump out for you for the receiver position that could pair well with Cam Ward in his first year?
At 35, not necessarily.
We could go day 3 as well.
Yeah, this is tough, right? So like there are a lot of day 2-ish guys that I really, really like. And honestly, a lot of them I feel like the stock is really starting to rise in a really big way. A couple of guys that I'm high on all the same players that all of us are, like the top 4 to 5 players would be really great fits for the Titans. But the thing is, outside of Tedero and McMillan, a lot of the top wide receiver talent in this draft are all kind of the same player or same size profile as Calvin Ridley. And this team desperately needs like a dominant X receiver, right? The one guy that we had that was playing very well in that role was Nick Westbrook-Akine, and now he's in Miami. So,
Yep.
Treylon, you obviously can't put any stock into if he even makes the roster. We'll see. But this team desperately needs somebody that they can pair that is going to be a big body X out, opposite of Calvin. But at this point, there's the depth chart is so devoid of talent at this point that you just kind of have to take the best player that you can at that position. So whether they sit at 35 and they're able to land one of those top guys, I don't think it's going to happen. I think all those top 4 or 5 receivers are all going to be gone in probably the top 26, 28 picks. So the Titans realistically are going to be looking at guys like Alec Aomaner. You got Jack that you just mentioned, Jaden Higgins, Restrepo. I wouldn't put in the conversation at 35 necessarily, but there's a couple of guys that I really like that I'm fond of that are later round guys. Kyle Williams is really interesting as like a potential, late 3rd, early 4th round pick. He's kind of rising up boards right now.
Kyle Williams, we can talk briefly on him because Joe Blocko, I've seen him in all the chats here recently, spreading the Iron City film. Drew, who was a fellow draft professor with me, he is all about the Kyle Williams tape, and I see that spreading like wildfire across the Titan sphere. I just don't see it as a potential 2nd round option. If they draft him with 35, I am 100% out. It's not even close. Agreed. If they give him the 4th round, 5th round, I'm perfectly fine with that. But this is a guy that's undersized, speed profile that creates separation. This looks exactly like an Andy Isabella, that same realm type of guy that looks really good in college but never translate. And he's a liability in the run game. The guy cannot block to save his life, and it's due just to his size more than anything. And he can't play on the perimeter at the next level, in my opinion. But if that's a guy that you can bring in as a gadget receiver that can play out of the slot and give you 300 to 400 yards on a per season, I think it's a good pick. But I'm not extending him over. God, I don't know if I have him in my top 10 currently for the wide receiver position.
I have him at like wide receiver 8.
Yeah, and that's kind of where he should be, in my opinion. But
I think with how hard it is,
though. Go ahead.
I think with how hard it is to find X receiver, something like it's like the organization may have to take a different step with how we look at the position. It's just damn near impossible to find an X receiver that's dominant, and even just an X receiver that's going to go and every play going to go stand on the line of scrimmage and say, "Hey, I'm setting the ball." So with that being said, I think they should really look at trying to find a lot of receivers of the mold of, I'm not going to say Deebo Samuel, but versatile receivers that are able to get good yards after the catch. Right, that's probably the direction they need to go in, especially if we're going to be in this West Coast offense where it's going to be, dare I say it, dip and dunk. We should really go all in just on yak guys and just try and make it work, especially this first year, man. I mean, this first year is going to be a wash, depending on receiver position.
There is a guy at 35 that I'm pretty confident is going to be there at 35, and he is a good player. He's a really good player. He is a fantastic blocker. He's good in space, and he's a big body. That's Alec Aomaner from Stanford. So I know that Jake, I'll turn it over to you. You are a resident draft profilist here, but Aomaner I really like for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, I talked about like his size. He's a really smart player. That's kind of like the thing that he's getting, like that a lot of people are like really excited about. Like he's a he's a book nerd. He's in this tape. He's learning. But also from like what he's producing, He is just a strong, like typical X receiver. And he does a really good job of creating separation. He stacks defenders really well, getting down the field. But the thing that he does really, really well is he blocks really well, and he's really smart. So you can talk us through that, Jake, but I think at 35, that's probably a realistic option that I think is worthy of a 35th pick, because he's a better player than I think a lot of people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, I know a friend of the show, Stoney Keeley. This is his guy. He loves the way this guy plays. And also talking with Bill Sparks, who is another draft analyst. This is a guy he thinks should go in the first round. He is also very young. So this is a guy that's not he's going to continue to learn this. I think he's a redshirt sophomore, great body size. When I look at wide receivers, I know we were talking about it briefly. When we look at X receivers of the past, you want a guy that's 210, 6'3", 6'4", and that's just not the day of where the game is at now. I think you want a guy that's 5'11 to 6'1 that can work those underneath routes, can run away from man coverage, and can be schemed open more easily. And I think that's kind of the perfect fit for Alik. Some of my concerns is he does round off routes quite a bit, and he's very raw. But when you turn on, like, you could go throw on an Alik Ayomanor highlight tape and see many plays of him on Travis Hunter where he decimated him.
Cooked him
just last year. And he's a good prospect. I think it's more hope of development than a day one starter kind of guy. And where the Titans are at currently, I think they could use some of that. You need a guy that you can bring along and get your T. Higgins. That took a little bit of time as well. And now he's getting that payday. So I think that's a guy that you could look at. Another player I would look at potentially is a Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Another slightly bigger guy who I have slightly higher over Ayomanor. And this is a guy that led the NCAA in yards per route run just this last year, dealt with an injury for the majority of it, and still put over 1,000 yards receiving. And when I looked at his tape just last year, it was him and Luther Burden. Those are the two guys where I'm like, these are guys I want on my team next season. Now, it's unfortunate both of them kind of took a step back due to injury or play style. And unfortunately, Luther Burden had to play in that Mizzou style system that just didn't complement him. And he was more of a gadget receiver this past season. But these are guys that you can definitely take a look at. And we know the draft is crazy. We talk about it every year. This is a surefire first round pick. And then they're sitting there in the third round sometimes. So there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be talent on the board for them to look at and say and I know we had in the comments earlier, we're looking at potentially edge at 35. And you can get a guy like Donovan Azaraku out of Boston College who would definitely bolster that pass rush. And there's a bunch of those guys in that same realm of the Jack Sawyer and the kid out of Arkansas, named escaping me currently. But there's a lot of the Landon Jackson. There's a lot of guys in that same round. Princely Umamli Ellen out of Ole Miss as well. Yes. Yeah. Definitely butchered that.
But some of the names in this draft are wild.
God, I know we had the draft with Easton Freeze last year was like best names in the draft or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll have to do that again this year just because there's a lot of them.
Storm Duck last year?
Storm Duck, who had a good season. I forget where he landed, but I remember seeing some highlights of him on ESPN. And I was like, hey, that's my guy. That's my guy, Storm Duck out of Oregon. But
what do y'all think about the Titans' ability to move up if they fall in love with a guy at 30? Well, before 35 with some of the late round picks.
Man, Zach Lyons kind of brushed this off like really hard because the Titans said that they want to add picks in the top 100, not trade them away. And that makes sense, right? Or add picks and not trade them. But this team has two fourths, 2 fifths, and 2 sevenths. Is that what it is? They have 6 picks, I think, on day 3. So at this point, to me, there's a possibility you could package a pick, like a late pick or 2, and move up like 8 spots or 7 spots or something like that, right? I don't know the Jimmy Johnson or whatever calculator is going to do as far as compensation, yada, yada. But I think there's a reality where, if it gets to pick 27, 28, 29, or even 32, by the way, because like the Chiefs, or sorry, not the Chiefs, but where are they picking? 30? Is it 31? The Chiefs, yeah, 31.
Yeah, it should be 31. Yeah,
it's possible. Like Borgonzi and Brett Veach, great relationship. There's a possibility the Chiefs could be like, you know what? Sure. Like we'll move from 31 to 35. And they move up and snag a guy. So yeah, I mean, I think the Titans, what's really interesting now that things of Cam Ward have kind of settled in, like we're locked in, like we can all agree, right? It's Cam. And I've been saying it for a long time, but definitely at this point. So now the Titans they have to turn their attention to arguably a more critical pick than the first overall pick, which is wild to say. But pick 35 is pretty important because you're either going to land a bona fide first round talent, because that's the thing that I've been talking about in the past couple of days, is that it happens every year. Every single year, the top of the second round produces first round guys that were projected to be in the first round, that should have been first round guys, that fall into the top of the second all the time. It's at least like, it's anywhere from like 3 to like 7 to 8 players, depending on how juicy the draft is. Yeah, you're going to get a handful of guys that should be picked there. So the Titans might be staring down the barrel of either one of your guys is going to come fall, and then they're going to be worth moving up to, or one of somebody else's guy falls, like a top tackle or something. I don't know. And then it's worth, trading down. So the Titans have a really interesting board to produce here, thinking like, okay, we need a receiver and an edge for sure. If one of these top edge or receivers fall, then we have to snag them. And depending on where they go, they have to pivot. And that comment about Ezraku is really interesting, because the edge talent after like 7 to 8 players, it is it's a cliff. It drops huge. The receiver talent, although like you still have a couple of guys that you can get in the 3rd or 4th round that are quality players.
They can help your football team.
You kind of have to, like, it's almost in the Titans' best interest for them to have one of these top edge guys fall that they can grab, and then them get, maybe get a little freaky with it, and trade a couple of these later round picks, and then move up to the 3rd round and maybe snag like a Restrepo or somebody to add to the receiver talent. So it's really interesting. The draft really starts at 35 for them, and they have to prepare 2 boards. Like if we go edge, what does the rest of our draft look like? If we go receiver, what does the rest of our draft look like? And honestly, as look all day long, like best case scenario, like my dream scenario would be like Cam at 1, and then landing one of these guys like Igbuka, or, one of the top receivers like Luther Burden or something like that. That would be dream scenario for me. But if I'm being completely rational and fair, realistically for the Titans, best case scenario would likely be Cam at 1, and then one of these top edge at 35, or maybe even moving up a little bit, and then trying to find some receiver help in the early 4th or something like that.
No, I could see the scenario where they did move up. I think where we are currently, it's more likely they move back in the 2nd round and try to pick up that additional 3rd, maybe some additional 4ths. But they do have that firepower to move up as well. So maybe they're sitting there at 35 and they see, like you said, there's like 6 or 7 decent edges, and then there's a significant drop off, and that's after Carter, Green, James Pierce, Ezraku, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Nick Scourton. There's that cliff, and then you're into that Landon Jackson, Princely, JT, and a couple of these other ones. It's pretty significant to me. So if you're sitting there and we're coming into that mid-20s range, and James Pierce is still on the board, Mike Green is still on the board. Probably not, but
you gotta go get
that's
him.
when you can move up and get that premier starter, and then you're set. But we acquired Harold Landry off a very similar situation where we sticked and picked there when he was talked about all through that draft season as he was a surefire 1st round pick, and they sitting there at the bottom of the 2nd. We're like, go get your guy. And now he's no longer with the team, but that was the longest running Titan for a reason, is he was talented enough to stick around. So you're betting on those
traits because of his size, right?
I don't even think it was his size.
No, he got popped because he was just a one-dimensional pass rusher. Like he was seen as a speed rusher with one move. And the irony was, which he was. So it was
he returned the quarter.
It was a correct evaluation. The reason why he was misevaluated is because he was that one move was damn lethal. And it started to click in the NFL. So, and he improved. Obviously, he improved as a run defender. He improved at setting. He could not set an edge when he was drafted.
I thought that was more so because of he was a little undersized coming into the league.
He was.
He was a little frail.
Like 250 or so. Yeah.
Like
I think that sounds very similar to a Donovan Ezaraku, which I don't know if that fits exactly what Denard Wilson wants to put out there. I mean, we saw this last season. And he started Arden Key, who's also very undersized, but I think that was more so he had to do that than opposed to a want to do that kind of thing. So maybe they're wanting to get a little bit bigger out there on the edge. So that's definitely potential.
I can't watch another season of Arden Key. I'm telling you.
Buckle up. I think it's
coming. Arden Key, buddy. You're gonna
get it makes my head hurt watching them play, man. You know what makes my head hurt even more? Hearing them after talking about the game. I'm like, this guy.
He brings the energy, though. Big locker room guy.
Yeah, big locker room guy. Yeah.
Will Compton, but edge. But
let me ask you all this too. This might be an alternate reality that I've seen. But do any of the shenanigans from the two, dare I say, more dysfunctional organizations below us affect your draft plans at one? Jonathan, I know it doesn't say for you. But the Browns are talking about doing some crazy shit with Dallas, and I don't know if y'all seen that or not.
Yeah, some legitimate report just came out. I forget who it was, but they it was Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. He said that's not a thing. That conversation is not happening. So, look. Whenever you have a situation where the NFL, so something that doesn't get talked about, but is definitely a conversation that's happened, is that the NFL draft is next to the Super Bowl, the largest event for NFL sports, right? And you can argue that NFL is the biggest American sport, right? So if you think about it, the draft, the mystery, the mock drafts, like mock draft softwares is like a multi-million-dollar business model every single offseason. So if you talk about the business of the NFL draft is exciting and you need to keep it exciting. Whenever you can completely see that it's not scripted, but whenever you can see that it's obvious where a player is being taken, then it obviously makes it less exciting. The sports books slide and it's like, okay, well, that's already happening. So we can move on. Naturally, the second we're like, okay, do we all agree Cam Ward's going to Tennessee? Great. Now all of a sudden the Browns are trading for Dak Prescott. You know what I'm saying? So like, I will say,
it sounds even crazier when somebody says it out loud.
Yeah, I know.
There's no way that salary would match up. It's impossible.
It sounds so crazy when it's said out loud, but if it's just in somebody's head, like.
You're like, sure.
Whatever happens in Jerry Jones's head, hey, he's gonna make happen.
Bro, I think it's a Cowboys fan thing where they're just like, let's just move on from Dak Prescott. And look, I don't blame them. And for the Browns, I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Like if it comes right back to the conversation, if any player is worth trading up for, that a team would trade up and take a player, then it's likely that they're going to be okay with that. The only scenario where the Browns don't take Shedeur Sanders is where, like maybe Dion truly doesn't want him to go there. And they're like, okay, like we're not going to go there for that reason. But I just don't think that's the case. I will say, I do think the draft starts at 2. And to answer your question, B-Will, to bring this back around, I do think there is a reality where the Titans, I think the Titans know they're taking Cam Ward, but I think because of the business of the NFL, you have to be smart. Like it's the same thing. Like the Bears said the same thing last year, right? They said, we're open to a trade offer. The only difference is that Ryan Poles came out and straight up said it would take a crazy draft haul for us to move off of this pick. They said it. Borgonzi hasn't said that. He doesn't have to. It's just known. It's assumed, right? So I think it's the same case for the Titans. It would take a really, really insane draft compensation package for them to move off of this pick. I don't think that's happening. And I think that conversation happened with Joe Shane at the Pro Day. And I think that's exactly why you saw 24 hours, not even 24 hours later, Russell Wilson signing with the Giants. And now they have Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson and Tommy DeVito, who is not a slouch. Like, he's a pretty decent backup, and he's their QB3 now. So to me, once that happened, the only other logical landing spot realistically for a trade up, right, for specifically to go get your guy, would be with the Steelers. And that's because Aaron Rodgers hasn't landed there yet. But going from pick 1 to 21 would be, it's just not realistic. The Steelers already traded a top 100 pick to Seattle for DK. It's just not going to happen. So to me, that checks every name off of the list that would be willing to give up what they would have to give up to go to 1. That's why it's a solidified at 1. So I do think the Titans are taking that player, and then I think the draft is starting at 2. And it will be more interesting for the NFL too, because the Browns, they truly could go in any direction. But I'll tell you, I want to say this on this podcast because I said it on a different one. Myles Garrett did not re-sign because of the money. Myles Garrett re-signed with the Browns because the Browns told them they have a clear vision for a quarterback. Okay. And if the Browns are sitting at 2 and the only team picking in front of them is the Titans, and there's 2 premier quarterbacks in this draft, what does that tell you guys?
They're going to get a guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it as well. I think
I agree with what you said completely too. It's just it's it's going to be interesting to see what Sanders does in Cleveland. If he's receptive to being there. I mean, it's a shithole really, but we'll see.
Can he end the curse? Yeah.
Yeah, can he end the curse? If anybody could do it, he's mentally there to do it. He's arrogant. I ain't gonna say arrogant. He's confident enough to be able to overcome that. But there's a lot of external factors in Cleveland too that are working against him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good team though. It's a good team.
They're
solid.
A good team. They got
it's
a good coach.
They have a good defense. I mean, this is not your dad's Browns. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think there is a reality where
what weapons would he have there? I know this is a Titans podcast.
Jerry Jeudy, Donovan Peoples-Jones just worked out with the Titans, so he's not there anymore.
Yeah, so he's gone.
Do we know who wide receiver 2 is, Jake?
I have no idea off the top of my head. I don't know.
That's what I was worried about. He's got Chubb still. Chubb came on at the end of last year, looked okay. So
same problem as the Titans, it appears.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now. So they have Jamal Thrash, which was a draft pick.
Cedric Tillman.
That's right.
Tillman's good.
Yeah. And Michael Woods is their wide receiver 3. So
okay. Okay. So they're in the same spot.
Yeah. So they're definitely in the same boat and they are picking ahead of us in the second round, I believe. So they picked 33 because we rotate that. So that could be a potential spot that you might want to jump ahead of, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
you'd have to first round. Moving up to 31, first round.
Yep.
Get a fifth.
So that's definitely potential. I think we talked ourselves into it. Titans are moving back into the first round, but
just kind of got to show where they're at 35.
They've got to show some aggressiveness though. This front office, and they haven't really shown that this offseason. Come on, I might be wrong, but to me, I haven't seen it go and get it just yet. Mm-hmm. I feel like they've got to play their ace. They've got an ace in their back pocket. And it's not the Cam Ward the draft pick. That's the damn big joker that you told everybody you got in your hand when you got dealt. Mm-hmm. But they've got an ace in their back pocket. It's just we got to see what it is. And trading back into the first might be that ace.
Is it moving Will Levis? Getting more draft picks.
I don't know if that's an aggressive.
That's the damn 8 of hearts.
That's taking the trash out. You just kind of have to do it.
That did lead me to my next question. Is there a realistic possibility where you see where Will Levis could be on the team next year with them signing Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle?
So
is there a realistic situation where you see one of those guys with Will Levis and Cam Ward?
So I saw somebody on Twitter, I forget who it was, saying there's no reason to cut. I think it might have been Terry McCormick, and I like Terry McCormick a lot. But he was saying there's no reason, financially to cut Will Levis. He's a cheap backup, and it makes a lot of sense to keep him. And he's right. But my thing is how do I say it? The damage he did to that locker room last year just to create a losing environment is unforgivable to me, and he's got to be cut. He should have been cut immediately after the offseason, in my opinion. Just the attitude and everything, and he's a kid, right? But the damage he did to that locker room.
He's 26. So I don't know if we can give him. Yeah, I don't know if we can give him.
He's the oldest quarterback in the AFC South.
I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But he acts like a damn kid. But he's got to go, man. You can't do that much damage to a locker room and be that much of a hindrance to a team's success and continue on that team the next year. This is an NFL locker room with dudes in there. They're going to be looking at him sideways. It's going to create just a sense of, I'm not going to say tension, but it's unnecessary. No matter what financial savings you get, you can find it. I'd pay him to leave. He's just got to go, and he should have already been gone.
Thank God B. Will's not in the front office. We'd be so screwed.
No, seriously. I mean, what are we saving here?
Yeah.
$1.5 million? Seriously.
Yeah.
What's more important?
He's available. Yes.
Let him go.
Oh, you guys are interested?
Yeah.
You guys just want him? No? Okay. We'll pay his salary. You will take him then? No? Okay. All right. Yeah,
we'll fly him Spirit Airlines to wherever you are.
I'll fly him anywhere. He's got to go. Seriously.
Yeah. I think him and Amani Hooker be sitting next to each other in business class.
Him too.
Okay. Why are you doing that, Jake?
I'll put him in first class. So he earned that.
Christ, why are you doing this? No, I think so. Here's the thing. I think there is a reality where Will Levis could be on the team, and I don't think the Tim Boyle signing, the Brandon Allen signings, those are just like, hey, one of these guys is going to be a backup for us. Those are contingencies, and maybe they're having what they're doing is this. They're clearly having a conversation with Will Levis and saying, look, Will, we are not saying that we are 100% taking a quarterback, but there's a good chance that we will. They're probably saying some bullshit like that. And then him basically saying, okay, well, look, once you guys figure that out, I just want a chance to start. I don't like if there's a home for me, please try to find a home for me. They're probably having some very fair conversations like that.
Hey.
And they are probably like blindly shopping him. But what's going to happen is this. It makes sense. Here's the thing. It makes sense for both sides. If they're doing a smart job, they're pitching this. They just spent a year of development for him, right? So he's like a penny stock. You've invested time and energy into him. So he would be a good backup. He should be the backup. You're paying him $2 million on a rookie deal still, and he's going into the final year of that, if I'm not wrong here. So his contract is going to expire the following year. And so at that point, Will can just walk, right? He can just go choose his destination, and the quarterback situation changes. Right now, it's not in Will's best interest to go anywhere else unless he feels like he's going to have a future with that team. So if it's a place that has a quarterback situation that's kind of iffy, or maybe they feel like they're about to move off of their quarterback, or the quarterback is old, like there's maybe one or two destinations that could make some sense for him there. I thought LA made some sense going to the Rams because obviously Stafford's not going to be there much longer. So maybe Will would prefer something like that, but that's not in the Titans' best interest necessarily, right? Like Will Levis is a better backup than Brandon Allen in some instances, right? Some people would argue no, and that's fine. I hear you.
Why do the Titans need a backup quarterback? Tell me.
Why?
Why?
Oh, that's because all teams have backups to the position, so they have starters. I don't understand what you're asking.
Throw a guy in there. Why do they really need a backup quarterback? Let's be honest.
I mean, I think gets hurt with these signings that
season's
that's
a wrap
going to be their.
if he gets hurt.
That's what I'm saying. We don't need we don't need nobody. Just grab a random guy, not a random guy, but grab this Boiler guy and quarterback too. Somebody gets hurt, throw him in there, or sign an old guy.
That's literally what they did.
Yeah,
they're like, whatever.
Put Brendan Williams, put Brendan in the front office. But here's the thing: that's who gives a shit about a backup quarterback? What's more important, a backup quarterback as a contingency plan, or the locker room? And that's what I'm getting at. This guy,
when you're a backup quarterback, you're not leading the locker room, right? Like
but his presence, his mere presence in that locker room is unnecessary. That's what I'm saying. And I know I'm not. I know there's guys on that football team who are like, why is this guy even here? Seriously.
I mean, Cam Ward is going to the aura of Cam Ward is going to absolutely take over this football team. So whoever your backup is, what it is. But to your point,
video of Will Levis, and I don't mean to cut you off. Any video of Will Levis in training camp or mini camp is unnecessary. It creates unnecessary. You know, our fans are not the smartest. It creates unnecessary conversations. It creates unnecessary. It's the quarterback position is such a different thing. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of it at all. He's got to go.
To your point, it does create a small sense. Here's the problem. Here's and I said this. What did I say this in like week 12, guys? I said this, where if you keep Will Levis on the team and you have a different quarterback, especially a rookie, the problem is that let's say Cam Ward gets hurt, God forbid. He gets hurt, and then Will Levis steps in, and Will Levis starts bawling. most smart fans are going to go, okay, well, we've seen this before, right? This isn't necessarily anything different. He could be a new, right? That's possible. But if he starts balling, then there's going to be, to your point, B. Will, there's going to be a portion of the fan base that's going to go, see, he's been that guy this whole time. It needs to be that. And God forbid, maybe Cam Ward comes back and he struggles a little bit. Then you have this awkward tension in the court. Like the Titans can't have that. And so I think what makes the most sense is that he can't be on the football team anymore for a couple of reasons, but you can really package it as, look, he's not the youngest. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's going to be 27 next year, right? So he really does need a chance to go somewhere where he could get a chance to start. It's not going to be in Tennessee. It's not. With Cam Ward, it's just not.
It's not going to be at the University of Kentucky.
So
this guy's not starting.
He can't go back to college.
I think he's going to end up as a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's going to go join his buddy Mason Rudolph over there in Pittsburgh.
They're going to be back over there. Seriously though, Jonathan or Jake, I'm interested to see what you think. Do you?
I don't see a realistic situation where he is on the team. Former starting quarterbacks always have their truthers. When we were in the midst of the offseason, I saw people calling to bring back Marcus Mariota. And that's just where Titans fans base is at this point in time. You can't have that. I don't think it would be very toxic within the locker room amongst the players. I don't see that as an issue. But the fan base would be unbearable. The first interception that Cam Ward throws, it's going to be call for Will Levis. Put him in.
It's going to be a preseason if Levis throws a touchdown pass.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Cam needs to sit.
He's going to connect with Traylon Burks and go, he unlocked him. Let's go. Yeah. Let's ride.
It's so unnecessary. Just get rid of him. And that's why I say I'd pay somebody to get rid of him. Because it's worth that to me to just eliminate that possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to as a team you got to move on. I think that it's a stronger likelihood that he's traded. And to your point, B. Will, I think you just can't have that. I'm not going to call it stinking up the locker room, but it's just, a former, it's like keeping your ex around as like a roommate. It's like just not a smart idea.
If you don't plan on banging her, there's no point in keeping her around. If you don't plan on, I shouldn't have said that. But if you don't plan on, rekindling that relationship, what's the point of her being around? And that's the same thing as, but that's the same thing with Levis though. It's just there's no world where it makes sense to keep Will Levis in that locker room besides money. And if you're haggling over $1.5 million or whatever is on his against the cap,
it's like 2.1 or something.
2.1, you're not serious about the future of this organization. You're not serious about the future of Cam Ward. If you're thinking about $2.1 million, let's be honest. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm so serious about the Titans' future, and I'm so serious about Cam Ward's future, I would pay another team $2 million to take him. And he needs to go. Seriously. That's more of a compliment to Cam Ward than anything else.
It's going to look like the Harold Landry situation. It's going to come out as reports as they're shopping him. Where's he going to go? And if there is no suitor, I think that's what he'll ultimately, I think, come to camp before they make the cut. But I think when it comes to that 53, he's out the door. I don't see any scenario with that.
You're fine with him even probably showing up to camp?
I'm fine with him showing up to camp just so we can have another live arm out there, and then they can have that competition between him and Brandon Ireland and Tim Boyle. We'll see one of them get cut with that first little round. And they'll probably put that one on the practice squad, and then Will Levis is out the door next. And then you're sitting with that other one as your backup. And I think that's where they're going to look at. But I think they will move him.
The best fit for him was LA, like you said, though.
Put him behind Stafford. Yeah.
I think it's a really good fit for him. I was just coming out of college. So, it's just, we'll see.
I think they're willing to move on. I think they're willing to hold on to him if there's a spot to move him. Because the other thing that you can have a conversation about is, if you keep three quarterbacks, which maybe they don't want to do, but if they did, I don't think Will Levis is a cut. I think he's a commodity that's going to return a draft pick. If Malik Willis got a 7th rounder, Will Levis is going to bring a 5th or a 6th, in my opinion. So I think
Malik's
there's a reality
young, though, man. That's the difference. Malik's quite a bit younger than Levis, ain't he?
I think Malik's like 24 now.
But we traded him, he's probably 22, 23. I think maybe
23,
probably 23.
He wasn't 26, and he wasn't a failure.
No, he was younger than.
There was still a glimmer of hope for him. I feel like for Levis,
he's 25. He's 25.
He's 25.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and Levis is 26.
And he's going to be Malik will be 26 at the start of this season.
Okay, so we traded him at 24. Well, yeah, 25. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I don't see a world where we even get any compensation for Will Levis, to be honest, because this draft has Will Levis littered throughout.
Hold on, so Will Levis is 25 right now. He's going to be 26 on June 27th. So they'll both be Will Levis and Malik will both be 26.
The same age.
They're only about a month apart, 2 months apart.
Yeah. I think the biggest concern with between the two is Will Levis played at Kentucky his entire career with Penn State, and in the background, you look at Malik, he played at Liberty where he had no coaching at all. So there's still that raw.
What was his name? Hugh Freeze, wasn't it?
I don't recall who was at Liberty. Right. Yeah. Who is at Auburn now, I believe. But
he's at Auburn.
When you look at Will Levis, and someone I wish I could give credit to who said this, because I did like it. Will Levis has been overcoached his entire career. This is a guy that comes for money. He had his private tutors. He had his private coaching. This is what happens when you take somebody that should be playing linebacker. You try to teach them to be something they're not natural at. Cam Ward is the complete opposite of that. This is a guy that played in a wing T offense in high school and then goes to Incarnate Ward, where he was a walk-on that had never really thrown a pass even, and comes in and we see that natural moxie to him and how he can just put the ball where he wants to. And it might not look like Shedeur Sanders in those 3 and 5 step drop backs, but it's so natural to him to where you can teach him to play within structure, I think, and can allow him to continue to learn that stuff. And even with, I think he's 22, maybe even younger. But that's a guy that you can definitely build around because he's so natural for the position. You can fix those dumbass errors that Will Levis has, because Cam Ward has them in his own right, but I think he can learn upon them.
But mental makeup
Will Levis
too.
Never will.
Cam Ward will be 23 at the start of the season.
Mental makeup too. Cam Ward is more apt to the quarterback position. Mental makeup for Will Levis, he should be running into the damn A gap, meeting the fullback. Honestly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just he's an airhead, you know, but you can't say that about Cam Ward. I mean, Cam Ward's really got some substance about him, I feel like.
Yep.
Fun fact, Cam Ward and Malik Willis have the same birthday, May 25th.
Hey, that's it for me.
Jonathan is coming with the fun facts. And I know last week the fun fact was pretty well known about Quandre Diggs and Cam Ward, or the week before last. But I feel like Jonathan owes us a fun fact each week until Cam Ward steps on the football field.
It just kind of accidentally is happening. I'm not trying. It's just a situation.
We'll end the show with it every week going forward. Jonathan Miller's
every
fun
week,
facts.
Jonathan has a fun fact about Cam Ward.
Oh, bro.
And on that note, we can get out of here, I think. But we appreciate everybody in the comments, from MB, Amar, Coach Wills, Joe, Blanco. We appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you go and hit that subscribe button down below. It costs you nothing, and we definitely appreciate it. Go check that out. I think we got just under 94% of you guys aren't subscribed. They're checking out the show. Go do that for us. And then go check out the merch as well.
Look at those mugs.
So pretty. But we hope everybody has a great week, and we will check you guys out next Thursday. Peace.